the world of cars, with everything now being electric, self-park, self-drive, self-everything, there's still a huge passion for analogue. No ABS, no traction control, no driver aids, and a car to just be what it's supposed to be. Just four wheels, an engine, a gearbox, and a person or two. For us, the Ultima is one of those very, very rare opportunities. As time's going on, it's getting even scarcer, where I think it's about as good as you can get. And the car, we're going to let do the talking today. Not an awful lot from me, no feature dumping, no nothing. The car. Ultima's history is quite an interesting one, and it's one that we're quite au fait with because it's very, very close to the dealership and where both myself and Dan grew up. When a chap called Lee Noble basically brought about the first Ultima, which was an inspired Le Mans Group C car, and that became the first Ultima. A couple of cars were obviously built and produced and put on the roads and raced and whatever else. But the brand was actually sold to a customer who bought an Ultima off Noble Motorsport earlier on in its life in about '92. And Ted Marlowe and his son Richard then formed the company Ultima Sports Limited. And then the brand, as people recognise it now, has essentially been built up by those guys. The Ultima GTR, which is probably the most recognised and understood version of the Ultima, and held a record for many years, and I'm not actually sure it's ever been beaten, but it held the record from 0 to 100 and back to 0 again in 9.42 seconds, and I just can't even begin to explain how fast that is, and especially when we're talking over 20 years ago, when things like this, road legal cars were never that fast. It's absolutely crazy. And when it was took to the Top Gear test track as well, it was done in a crazy short time of 1 minute 12 on street tyres. So this thing is a proper race car for the road. And even though this one's the Can-Am, it is essentially, as I've said, just a GTR without the roof on, so you get that open air motoring. There's like nothing else that I've ever driven that feels quite like this. And whilst I've never driven or ridden a motorcycle at any speed, I can imagine this is the closest thing you're ever going to get to that kind of exhilaration.